This is Transit Connect episode number 6. This is going a little bit off track with the whole turbo conversion on the van because I really haven't had a lot of time to sort anything out, so I haven't ordered the parts I needed, so I need to get back on that at some point. But I really always wanted an air suspension kit on any vehicle I own, so it only made sense to put the van on air ride. The only problem is no one actually makes an air suspension kit for a Transit Connect. So we're going to have to make one from scratch. So if it works, then you're probably watching this video. If it don't work, then I'll try something else. So I bought a pair of struts off of eBay for like 20 quid delivered. They're a little bit rusty, but you know, we're not really building a Ferrari here. It's a Transit Connect. My main plan is to use like the standard shock and try and modify it somehow. I'm not quite sure how yet. The nut's quite rusty, so I'm going to have to work at that a little bit to try and get it undone. And we're going to bin the springs off and just replace them for bags. That's how it's working in my head anyway, so yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. So these are the suspension air suspension bags I'm going to be using. I got them off the internet from America. You've got 2 mounting holes in the bottom, 2 mounting holes in the top, or whatever way you want to fit it. You've got like an air inlet there. They don't come with any mounting plates. So I got on the internet and I got put forward to a chap called Chris, who runs a company called Hard Knock Speed Shop, and he has a water jet. So I sent him some pictures over and he cut these out of 4mm mild steel, which I think should be up for the job. Also the bolt hole fittings, because they're from America, they are 3/8 thread, so I also had to order some bolts as well, which kind of sucked. The inner diameter of this metal tube is 55mm, and I've already prior measured the outer diameter of the shock absorber off the Transit Connect, and that is 53mm. So all I've got to do now is muck about, maybe cut this spring platform off and try to get that over somehow, and I don't quite know what's going to happen, so I'm just going to go for it and see how it turns out. So all I ended up doing was just literally using a hacksaw. I didn't want to go at it with an angle grinder or anything because it's still a compressed shock, and I literally just gently run a hacksaw all the way around. Kept hitting it with a club hammer until I cut through the weld all the way around. There's a little plastic cap as well, which just seals the end of the shock absorber, so I've run a Stanley blade down the edge of that and cut that off as well. So I had to open up the inside of the plate a little bit because it wouldn't quite, the inner hole was just a little bit too tight. So I just opened it up with the pencil grinder a little bit, and now fits perfectly. So I've just got to try and make that straight and make that sit a bit more flat. I'm going to put all the, put the bag on, and then I'm going to build the top plate up with the strut top somehow. I'm not quite sure I'm going to do that yet either. And then I'm probably just going to dry assemble it all on the van just to see how it looks, and just to make sure I get the outlet of the actual bag, where the air has to go in and out, in the right place, because I don't quite know where it's going to sit. And so yeah, it's getting there slowly. By the way, obviously I'm going to have to weld this plate straight to this strut. I don't advise this because this shock absorber is still pressurized. But I've not really got any other way of going about it because I don't really want to spend any more money making an air suspension kit. I could probably buy some coilovers and make something up with that at some point, but this is just the cheapest and easiest way for me to do it. So that's just how I'm going to do it. So don't try this at home. The top of the shock's looking at, it's going to work out quite easy. I literally opened out the middle of the hole a little bit again because it was just a little bit too small, but now it fits perfectly over the top of the shock absorber. I took the bump stop off and the dust cover off the shock. I'm not really going to be refitting them because I'm sure these shocks are not going to last that long anyway. And the top of the strut top's actually made of metal, so all I've got to do is literally clean that up, and then I can literally just weld that straight to there, and that's the strut top done. So nice and simple. Keep it simple, that's the way to go. And that's it finished. So I literally just welded the plate to the bottom of the strut top, clipped it all back together, re-greased all the bearing, The holes I had to like cut out and then elongate because it was proving really hard to get like a bolt in there where there's not much room. So now I'm just going to mock it all up on the car. It's actually worked out quite well. I've put the strut all together on the van, and then I've put a massive axle stand underneath the bottom arm and let the ramp down to push the whole strut assembly up until the shock absorber actually bottomed out, so it won't go no lower, because let's face it, lower the better. So this wheel on this van is going to sit tucked. It's going to look ridiculous, but anyway. And what I'm going to do now is the bag. It's actually worked quite well because the bag's still quite loose, even though the shock's bottomed out. So I'm going to push this plate up as far as I can to compress the bag some more before I then weld the bottom plate to the actual shock absorber. And I'm going to put the inlet for the airbag itself over this side, because there's a hole there, so I can sort of tuck the line through, give it a bit of slack, so when I'm going from like right to left hand lock, it's got a bit of movement, and hopefully it will hold out. And the reason I want to push this plate up as far as I can before I weld it is so that I use like the full range of the bag. So at the moment it's not quite flat. If I push it up, it'll probably compress, like I can't do it one-handed, but it'll probably compress another like inch or so, so that when all the air's out the bag, you know, the van's at its lowest point, then when I inflate the bag, the van will sit at its highest point, so I can use this as much as the bag can offer, kind of thing. So that's where I am so far. So that's the shock all welded up. I like welded an inch and then like threw the whole lot in a bucket of water to cool down for 10 minutes, and then like welded another inch, and I've done it top and bottom as well. And it didn't explode. God knows what the state of the fluid is inside the shock, saying that it could be a gas shock. Yeah, I don't actually know. It didn't blow up, so that's a handy thing. So now all I've got to do is, I could really just rub the whole shock down and paint it, but I'm really not that bothered and not that keen on looks. So I'm literally just going to dash it in a little bit of satin black to make it look good, and then just build it all up with the airbag and the top mount. So get in there slowly. So I've painted all the shock up and built it all up with the airbag and the top mount. That does go down very slowly, and that sits in there obviously. So yeah, that's one side done. Now all I've got to do is do all this again for the other side. And here's one I made earlier. So now I've just got to build it all up into the van and start plumbing it in. Let's go on with that then. So I've fitted all the air suspension, and I've put the two struts on the front, and I've let the ramp down just to like have a look at it and admiring it. It's absolutely on its arse. And I thought, oh yeah, that looks quite low. But then what I didn't realise was it's actually stuck. I can't get the ramp arm out. So I'm gonna have to like take the ramp up, put something under the wheel, let it down, and then like roll it off. So it should sit a bit lower. Now just for a bit of plumbing. Because I'm an impatient child deep down, I couldn't help but take the van off the ramp and connect the air suspension up to the compressor at work just to see what it's like. Standard height. Doesn't actually go up and down that fast because it's only on a 1/4 inch hose. I could upgrade it to 3/8 in the future, but for now this will do fine. I could do this all day. So I've pretty much finished off the front suspension on the van. I've connected both bags together. I used like the 1/4 inch hose. The way I'm doing it, I'm going to connect the front two together so I can only make the front go up and down together. And then when I do the rear in the next video, you're going to have to wait to the next video for the rear because it's going to be a lot more work. Then I'll be able to make the back go up and down independent to the front, rather than like, you know, I'm not going to go into complicate like side to side and control each corner like independently. I plumbed both obviously the bags together and then teed them off, and then run the line through the grommet that was already in the firewall into the car. And I've got this gauge kit from D2 Racing. They do a lot of air suspension stuff and it's quite cool. It's nice and simple. So you connect this into your compressor, and then the compressed air comes around here and then tees into the bottom of both these like paddles, these like air switch type things, and then it tees off. So when it comes out of that, you can then connect, that one's going to connect to the rear and that one's connecting to the front, and then it tees off into this double needle gauge, so you can see what sort of pressure you're running. So I can, you know, at the moment the van's sitting at pretty standard height, I'd say, which is quite handy. So at least I can still use my van now. And you know, if I want to let some out the front, I can just, oh, not that one. So I can just a little bit as I'm just, might run it at like 80 psi, see how low the van sits, and then if I want to go a bit lower, so I can learn what sort of pressure I want in the front bags and the rear bags to make it sit at standard ride height, or or whatever. Or even if I load the van up and use it for work, I can just like over pump the rear bags a bit to make it sit standard ride height. So all things like that. It's quite cool. It's nice and simple the way I like it. See, the van only starts dropping down at about 80 psi. Anything above 80, it's pretty standard height. Not that you can really see it. He says. So the only thing really left to do is to mount this gauge. I looked around somewhere on the dash to put it, but there's nowhere obvious it can sit. But I've been thinking, if I take the headlight switch out and the headlight aim adjuster out, height adjuster, I could probably fit it in there, because it looks, oh, I'm tied up, look, because it looks like it'll probably just about fit. It's only slightly bit bigger, so I might be able to mod something up and make it look nice. And if I do it wrong, this panel can just unbolt anyway, so I can just throw it in the bin and just get another one, so I don't actually have to destroy like the whole dash on my van. So I'll save that to the next video. That's about it, really. So I hope you enjoyed this video, this little episode of the van. I know a lot of you are probably still waiting for me to turbo it, and I promise you I will do that. I'm just don't have a lot of time at the moment. I mean, it's now 7:30 on a Saturday. I should really just have more of a social life than making these videos, but if you guys like them, then I'll keep making them. So I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel and share it around. That'd be great. Thanks very much.